Small fortune when it comes to digital ID, hospitality firms battered, and I also want to look closer at the paper mile on electric vehicles. That is just to name a few. And we've had victory cries from Labour as figures out today show net migration has fallen sharply. Well, yeah, but that's because the number of Brits leaving the country is now at record highs. We've also seen, meanwhile, a rise in the number of so-called asylum seekers housed in hotels. Do we live in some kind of clown world or what? Also tonight, a massive U-turn from the government when it comes to their employment rights bill. Let's take a look at that. Well, I've got all of that and lots more keeping me company. My panel tonight, I've got the co-founder of the Together Association, Alan Miller, and alongside him I've got former Labour advisor Scarlett Maguire. But before we get stuck in, let's give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Michelle, thank you, and good evening to you. Well, the top story tonight at 6, Sir Keir Starmer is defending the government's tax-raising budget, insisting it will help lift hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty. Rachel Reeves has frozen income tax thresholds until 2031, meaning millions will pay more as wages rise, with new taxes also coming on electric vehicles, high-value homes and pension contributions. But alongside that, the two-child benefit cap is being scrapped. Well, earlier the Chancellor told us here on GBNews her budget is fair and necessary and insists it doesn't break any Labour election pledges.
I did have to increase taxes yesterday, but I've kept them to an absolute minimum on ordinary working people, freezing those thresholds for an additional 3 years from 2028. So more money in people's pockets, whether those are working families or indeed pensioners.
Rachel Reeves there speaking earlier. Well, in response, Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride told us he disagrees.
What has happened in this budget is just a second instalment of the disaster that we had in the first budget in the autumn of last year. Huge tax increases on hard-working people, whilst at the same time giving in to the pressures from their own backbenchers in the Labour Party and putting up benefits. That is not the way to get growth going. And in fact, in the OBR's numbers, you can see growth being damaged throughout the period compared to the forecast in the spring, unemployment going up every single year compared to the last forecast, and real living standards actually declining compared to last spring as a consequence of the choices that the government's taken.
Well, let's just bring you an update on that breaking news that we heard in the last half hour or so. A major government U-turn today, with the government and ministers dropping plans to give workers day one protection against unfair dismissal. That's despite Labour pledging it in their election manifesto. The Business Department now says employees will need 6 months' service before they can claim unfair dismissal, reducing the current 2 years, but far short of the original promise of 1 day. The change comes after a standoff between MPs and peers over the employment rights bill, including plans to curb exploitative zero-hours contracts. Ministers, though, insist the compromise is needed to get the law through Parliament, while unions say the priority now is securing new rights like day one sick pay by April. Let's turn to news in the United States now, and we have the first images of the 2 National Guard members ambushed in yesterday's shooting just steps from the White House. 24-year-old Andrew Wolf and 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom, both now in critical condition. US officials have also released a photo of the suspect here, 29-year-old Ramanallah Lakanwal, an Afghan national who previously worked with US forces in Afghanistan, according to the CIA. He was shot dead and detained at the scene. Officials say, though, the motive remains unclear at this stage, but the FBI has confirmed it is now an active federal terrorism investigation. Well, earlier today, reacting from Florida, President Donald Trump called the attack an act of terror and also said he'll remove foreigners, quote, from any country who does not belong in America.
This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. It was a crime against our entire nation. It was a crime against humanity. We must now re-examine every single alien who has entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden, and we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country. If they can't love our country, we don't want them.
And just before I hand you back to Michelle, an update on the situation in Hong Kong, where the death toll continues to rise after a massive fire there. We now know at least 83 people confirmed dead, nearly 300, though, still unaccounted for. The blaze engulfed 7 of the 8 towers at Wang Fuk Court, a development home to more than 4,600 residents. Attention now, though, shifting to how the disaster was allowed to happen. Police saying mesh panels and plastic sheeting wrapping around the building were not fireproof. 3 construction executives have also now been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter, as investigators are probing whether substandard materials and even possible corruption may have fuelled what is one of Hong Kong's deadliest fires in decades. Those are your 6 o'clock headlines. I'll be back with you for a full roundup at 7. Now, though, it's over to Michelle and her panel.
Thank you very much for that, Sam. Hello, good evening to each and every single one of you. How are you tonight? I do hope you are well. My name's Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co with you till 7. Alongside me, my panel, the co-founder of the Together Association, Alan Miller, and alongside him, the former Labour advisor, Scarlett Maguire. Welcome back to both of you. I feel like you've been strangers to me for a while. It's nice to have both of you back. And you know the drill. I always love you guys and your company over the next hour as well. Join the conversation in all the usual ways. Email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. Go to the website, gbnews.com/your set of caution tweets. Or you can X me, ladies and gents. There's so much we need to get stuck into tonight. We saw, didn't we, so many headlines, of course, from the budget yesterday. Thank goodness it's all over, by the way. That's my main takeaway. I've got to tell you that for free. Anyway, should we just remind ourselves of the headlines from yesterday? And then what I want us to do tonight is to get into, actually, the detail of some of this stuff that was announced. Because, of course, as the saying goes, the devil, of course, is always in that detail. Sit down then. Get comfortable. Let's refresh our memory, shall we? Of course, we've seen in terms of headlines from the budget, the tax thresholds frozen. That was quite a surprise, actually, in terms of the length it was extended to. We saw the 2-child benefit cap scrapped. Lots of conversation and debate on that one. Mansion tax on high-value homes. Mileage tax for electric cars. I want to get into that one as well, actually, tonight. Cash ISA rules reformed. We also saw national living wage rising. Of course, that was announced as well in advance the night before of the budget. Pension salary sacrifice perk was reduced. And then, you know, basically, if you could get your mitts on it, you could tax it. Gambling, milkshakes, taxes, tourist tax, you name it, it was all there. But it's all right, everyone, because apparently you'll save 150 quid off your bills. So there you go. They are the headlines. Well, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, she joined GB News this morning. Let's have a little listen to something that she had to say.
Did have to increase taxes yesterday, but I've kept them to an absolute minimum on ordinary working people, freezing those thresholds for an additional 3 years from 2028. So more money in people's pockets, whether those are working families or indeed pensioners.
Really annoys me the way she just glibly kind of mentions, oh, yeah, you know, we've had to freeze these kind of thresholds for an extra few years. By doing that, you know, the amount of people that will be dragged into, well, into tax in the first place, point one, also dragged into that higher rate, the 40%, it's really quite incredible. It will have a huge impact on viewers at home. And, of course, they promised not to do that when they had their previous budget.
That's right, Michelle. In fact, we were told all sorts of things before the first budget. It would be around 8 billion and it was 40 and lots more debt. And then now we've seen another 30 billion, and indeed at least 1 million people being brought into this new tax arena, and then looking like it could be up to 9 million people over the period. And so for a government that has got the name Labour, for labouring working people, this seems particularly problematic when what's going to be happening is then giving it to far more across the public sector and to benefits, and mainly, it must be said, because they've had a bit of a revolt and we're not able to see through some of the measures that everybody knows needs to happen in terms of wealth creation for everyone, but stripping back on benefits and making sure that we've got a more dynamic, innovative economy.
Look, can we it's really important that people understand about the tax thresholds.
Yeah.
That if you go, so I've forgotten what they are at the moment, but say that it's 11,000 or whatever, and then you then earn 14,000. It's only 3,000 that you're going to be taxed on. If you go into the higher one, it's only the amount that you're in the higher one, it's not that suddenly you're going to be taxed on 40% on everything. You're only going to be taxed on 40% on the one that goes over.
Yeah, so they know that. They're not daft.
No, lots of people don't actually. Lots of people go, oh, I don't want a pay rise because then I'll be in a new tax bracket. But partly because we're not taught at school in maths the really important stuff that we need to know. Lots of people don't understand it.
Yes, but hold on a second. At the end of the day, the point with all of this is a tax hike. You can pretend that it's not. You can have your Labour manifestos that say we're not going to tax working people and all the rest of it. It's an out-and-out lie, because when you freeze these thresholds, what you actually do, if you look at where they would have been now, so the threshold now, you're about £50,000 there or thereabouts to be at a 40% rate. If that had arisen with inflation, that sum would have been at about 70 grand, there or thereabouts, if it had increased all the time. So now what you're getting is that difference of your 20 grand it would have been. You're now getting that 40% tax on that chunk of money.
Yeah.
It's absolutely disgusting, because normal people are being dragged into that 40% bracket, and that is why people are absolutely furious about this.
Actually, most people do not earn £70,000 a year. So there are an awful lot of people who are not going to get into
You're missing my point.
No, I understand.
The threshold scale is not £70,000.
No, it's 50.
Yes, but what I'm saying is it shouldn't have actually kicked in. If those rates had stuck with inflation and risen accordingly, the threshold would have been there or there about 70
for the last 10 years, right? And we know that that's absolutely what happened, and it's a way of doing it without putting up income tax. All I'm saying is it doesn't mean that you're going to be paying the whole thing at 40%, which I think is really important to remember, right? And of course it's. I mean, I think that that Labour should have gone into the general election saying what a lot of the economists knew, saying we're going to have to sort out taxes, is we don't have enough money. I think that Jeremy Hunt's 3% off the national insurance was a total scam. They could never ever pay it, right? And Labour should have said we're not going to have it, but they didn't, and we are where we are.
I still don't really get your point, though, about, hey, guys, don't worry, it's only the additional
I'm not saying don't worry. What I'm saying is that a lot of people are worried about getting into a higher tax rate because they think they'll be taxed at 40% on everything. And what I'm saying is they'll only be taxed at 40% on the extra.
Good luck to you, by the way. If you're in that bracket, I think it's about 100 to about 125. I think that's about the bracket. You've got some kind of marginal rate. It works out to be about 60% at some point. But anyway,
can I just say that it becomes really difficult for everyone. We talk about cost of living crisis, so obviously working people, but across the board we're becoming more impoverished, and also to have such a cavalier attitude for people who do bring in wealth as well. That's why so many people have left the country. But we've seen it across the board on ISAs, on pensions, on capital gains tax, on a range of issues. If you're doing well in business, what that does is it sends the signal to people that it's very, very difficult to earn money in Britain. So if you've got the ability to do that, you may end up relocating your business internationally, which hundreds of thousands of people have done, which then amplifies the problem that you've got. And for people who are not in a position to do that, it just becomes much more expensive to live. Whilst we've got all these other crazy policies that are going on, which we'll probably come on to talk about, but issues around the borders and the control of them, hotels, all of which us taxpayers are spending on, and it's an assault on us. And rather than getting to grips with the issues and actually tackling and dealing with them, it seems that there's only one language, which is, whoops, yeah, I know we didn't say this, and I know we're U-turning on all of this, but basically this is just the medicine you're going to need. And it's always about tax raids and always about spending on the public sector.
And of course, the spending, a lot of this tax increase is to going on lift the two-child benefit cap. Did you support that measure?
Well, I think the problem is that you've got a situation where we have to look at who's this all going to, and I don't think that was a smart move. And I understand that poverty is a problem, but we've got an enormous issue in Britain, which is how to get wealth creation and the economy going. And it's also the case, and it's not, you know, people don't like to talk about it, that some families have far more children. And it just seems that a lot of these...
Give us some stats on this. Let's not beat about the bush, because people have been crunching the numbers. And these are, I think it's according to the Centre of Migration. Oh, sorry, this is the Children's Commission of Family Review and the ONS Birth by Parents Country of Birth study. Pakistani families, 41% of them have 3+ kids. Bangladeshi families, 38% of them do. Black African, 25 to 30, which is a Muslim majority, 20 to 25% of families have 3+ children, mostly Afghan and Iraq. White British families, 14% of those families have 3+ kids.
Exactly.
Well, but what we're saying is, if you have the 2-cap limit, the people who suffer are the children, right? And there is no question. I mean, it depends on whether you're a government, as the last Labour government was, that was determined to get children out of poverty and did an awful lot, or whether you as then the Conservatives did, you bring in the 2-child cap and children fall into poverty. And poor children are not good for anybody. I mean, it's terrible for them. Why should they be punished, right, because their parents do or don't use contraception or whatever, or decided to have more children or accidentally had more children? I mean, the people who suffer from the 2-child cap are the children. And everybody said, all the economists said, the best way to get children out of poverty is to lift the cap.
But why do British workers need to be taxed even more to pay for what is effectively becoming an international welfare state?
No, it's not a welfare. I mean, most of the people...
you the nationalities.
Well, yes, but also... Pakistani people work, Afghan people work. All these people who come over, they don't come over to sit around and have children. They come over to work. There's absolutely no question about it. And what we're saying is that if they have children, we don't want those children brought up.
Well, I've got to say that it used to be the case that Labour Party and everyone in the past historically had a view that it would be a safety net with benefits, and that you'd have an investment, innovative policy to create manufacturing and services and investment and transform the economy. That seems to not be happening, and instead what you've got is 5 million people on welfare and a situation where we've got almost no growth. They've had a huge mandate in this election, even though far less people voted for them than before, and had an opportunity to really come out and address these issues. And instead what we've seen is taxing everyone, making from everyone to the farmers, to veterans, an assault on all the working public, and not getting to grips with the problems that we're facing. And the public's sick of it.
No, and actually, Alan, there is a real push at the moment, because what we need is we need to get people off welfare. I mean, one inherited a system where people were just put onto welfare. We need to get people off welfare into work, and that's what they're trying to do. I just want to be clear, by the way, I'm not throwing shade on larger families. I'm indeed one of 6 children myself. And I'm one of 5. Nothing wrong with large families, and I don't want any child to exist in poverty. I agree with you, it's not the fault of the child. I just feel like we're losing a sense of personal responsibility in this country, because if you cannot afford, you don't suddenly wake up and you've randomly got 6 kids. Oh, how did that happen? You make conscious choices to have children. They are choices, whether that's birth control, whatever the choices are. And I just feel that we're tipping into this country, among certain demographics, it would seem, that people are actually sitting there and not factoring in, how do I provide for my children when planning their family? And I suspect that will make a lot of my viewers slightly unhappy. You can tell me, actually, because today we have a You Decide poll. Get your telephone out if you would like, and you can scan the QR code on your screen. We're asking a simple question. Was the Chancellor right to scrap the 2-child benefit cap so far? This poll's been running throughout the day, and the results are telling us the following. 2% of you say yes, she was right, and a whopping 98% of you are saying no, she was not right. Well, there you go. Let me know your thoughts on that. Coming up, we need to get into the detail then of the budget. I'll see you in a minute.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
the People's Channel?
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
Will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, Alan Miller and Scarlett Maguire. So much that we need to get into. Pete says, Michelle, can I just point out that having children is a privilege, it's not a right, and if you can't afford to look after your children, then you shouldn't actually be thinking of having them. The only thing I would say to that, Pete, is obviously sometimes circumstances do indeed change. I don't know, families break up, people unfortunately pass away and so on and so forth. Keep your thoughts there coming in. Look, let's cross live over to Stoke-on-Trent, shall we? Because hospitality industry, of course, was getting a little bit of a kick-in, some might say, in the budget. Jack Carson talks to people there. Now, good evening, Jack. Who are you talking to and what have you got for us?
Well, thank you very much, Michelle. We've been here in the Old Bulldog pub in Stoke all day, finding out both how the landlord here is feeling about that budget, but also how the punters here, our other local businesses here, feeling, and how that budget exactly has gone down here in areas like Stoke. Of course, former Red Wall in 2019, some areas here went Conservative and then back to Labour in the last election, so it's such an interesting area. But come over and let me introduce you to my guests that we've got joining us this evening. We've got Adam Walker here, who lives locally, and Mike Newton, the landlord, as well as Albert, of course. This is the Old Bulldog pub, so it wouldn't be right if we didn't have a Bulldog for you this evening. Adam, I'll come to you first. You're a local here. How are you feeling about that budget yesterday?
To be honest with you, Jack, I'm deeply confused, deeply frustrated. One thing with me, well, when it comes to the Labour Party, they're supposed to be the party for the working people. So my question to you, Keir, is How was yesterday's budget supporting me as a working taxpayer and the elderly? Because you're taking from pensions once again.
I mean, they would say that they are helping with the cost of living by bringing in an average household cut of £150 the energy bills. I mean, is that not helping you?
Right, OK, so last year did Ed Miliband not promise a £300 reduction on our energy bills? I'm pretty sure he did. So but I would like Tuti Akir to come sit here in the old Bulldog in Longton, enjoy a pint with us and explain to us without sugarcoating any of the nonsense that him and Rachel Thieves are coming out with, to explain how that budget supports us.
I mean, do you think the government get it in areas like this?
Absolutely not. I don't think the government realise and understand the hatred that working people have at this moment in time for the Labour Party.
I mean, Mike, you're the landlord here, you're the owner here. I mean, just tell us, hospitality, how do you think this budget is going to impact you, on that day-to-day basis?
Yeah, it's certainly not very helpful, Jack. And I think that it's very evident that there are two things going on here. Firstly, if my customers do well, then I do well. And this is a real attack on working people, this budget. See, even Albert thinks that. But what I would say is this, that in terms of the specifics of the hospitality industry, then we could have done without the 25% rise in business rates that I think this premises is going to have. We could have done without things like the rise in fuel duty in fuel duty and in alcohol tax, and we could also have done without the changes to NICs last year. I feel very strongly that our business is on a firm footing here, but we need help from the government, not a tax on the working people who are the backbone, as we've seen today in these wonderful discussions we've had. We've had the full day here, Jack, haven't we? It's been fantastic. But there's a feeling, isn't there? You've picked it up, I've picked it up, that the government is perhaps more disconnected than ever from the honest, hard-working people who form the backbone of areas like Stoke-on-Trent.
I mean, one of the things that you will be affected by will be that rise in the national living wage. I mean, you told us earlier you're happy to pay your staff that bit more, but is that a cost which might have to be a struggle for you?
I mean, look, I think that if the economy downturns further, as it probably will after this budget, then we will have to think about things like hours, staff numbers. I'm certainly not in a position where I'm going to go out and start hiring at the moment, which would be nice. I'd like to give people jobs. I mean, you've met the staff here today, fantastic people. They work super hard, and we've got a really good business. But if the costs of employing someone are going up relative to the money we're making, it's going to be a problem to hire more people and give them more hours.
So what are the things then, if you were the Chancellor yesterday, what would have been something that you would have done to help hospitality? What, as a pub owner, are you maybe crying out for to make things that bit easier?
I think she should just go full out and reverse the NIC changes that were made last year. Those have really undermined hospitality. Things like the changes in the living wage we can live with, but when you increase taxes on employing people, it's only it's human nature, it's the nature of business that there are going to be less people employed. You've seen what's happened this year. Unemployment is now 5%. It's gone up very rapidly. The economy is not in good shape. I mean, I used to work for the Bank of England, which, given Rachel's past there, it's not necessarily a recommendation. But, I understand, I think, how the economy works. And what we've seen yesterday is not good for Stoke-on-Trent, it's not good for the working people, and it's certainly not great for hospitality.
Right, Mike Newton, thank you so much, and Adam as well, thank you so much. Here in Stoke-on-Trent, that really is the feeling on the budget, Michelle.
I'm an envious woman, Jack. You've been in a pub all day long. I wish I could say that. Oh, there you go, you've got a pint. You're much more sober than I would be had I indeed been in a pub all day. I can tell you anyway. Thank you very much for that. Hospitality there, I mean, you heard the pub landlord there. They really are getting impacted.
When Labour were making all their promises, they did a really flashy event in Manchester, and Andy Burnham was there, and Sacha Lord, who's the nighttime advisor for Manchester, and they were talking about all the wonderful things they were going to do. Since then, 110,000 people have lost their jobs in hospitality as a consequence of what happened with the NI increases, like it's impacted other small businesses. We have to remember in Britain, small and medium-sized enterprises are the real backbone of our country. We've also seen a situation now where more people are going to have to do business rates. They're going to go up much more significantly. We've got the beer duties. The actual amount of profit is so small and marginal. And I think, you know, Hugh Osmond, Punch Taverns and others, was right when he said, you know, half of the industry's already been decimated. The lockdowns had a huge impact on hospitality. Over 15,000 venues lost as a consequence of that. And it looks like Labour wants to destroy the other half right now.
Well, they clearly don't, right? I mean, there is absolutely not. That Labour actually completely understands that we need pubs, we need restaurants, we need to keep it going. I think, I mean, I agree. I think that the national, the hike in the national insurance was a bad move. But actually, she has brought business rates down for pubs. She has been doing her pubs. And what I thought was
a re-evaluation.
Yeah.
And in many cases, I've seen many examples of pubs that have now, as a result of the re-evaluation, will pay many multiples of what they're paying now.
That's right.
And a lot of them will pay less. But what was interesting about him is that actually he understands that the minimum, how important the minimum wage going up is, because you have to have people who can live on their earnings. And people always say, because I remember back in the 90s, before the minimum wage came in, they said it will lose jobs. And actually, I had quite a row with John Prescott about this, who thought that it would lose jobs. And it didn't, and the Tories done it. The Tories adopted it and agreed that it was the right thing to do, and to keep a minimum wage. Because actually, if you're on the minimum wage, you're paying tax. That's what matters.
Rod says, Michelle, I think that working people will never trust Labour again. Lots of you, I mean, Mel says, Michelle, I think scrapping the two-child benefits cap was to appease Labour backbenchers and try and save Keir Starmer's job. You don't actually think it was motivated by child poverty. Trevor says, Michelle is basically saying she's happy for children to remain in poverty as long as they have got brown skin. That is disgusting. I didn't actually say that, Trevor, and if you listened, what I said was I don't think any child should be in poverty. Thank you very much. My point is a simple one. When making plans for your family, it is not beyond the pale to suggest that people should consider their financial circumstances when doing so. Yes, of course, situations do indeed change, but you shouldn't be sitting there just brooding ad infinitum if you have no ability to actually financially support those children. And I would say that irrespective of the skin colour of the child. Digital ID, this was in the small print of the budget, the eye-watering sums for that.
Yeah, well, now we're seeing it, aren't we? For mandatory digital ID, free digital ID, 1.8 billion. It's an enormous amount of money, and it will go up much more as well. But it's not just the money, is it, of course, because that's another thing that was never in a manifesto, we've never agreed to, and now we've got 8 million directors being forced onto it currently. But let's remind all the viewers, do not do one login. Make sure you can have an accountant register you, because the one login infrastructure is the thing that is underwriting everything. And then we've got all the concerns about privacy and data. We've got the hundreds of millions of data breaches, privacy leaks that we've seen internationally and in Britain. We've also seen that the one login system through whistleblowers is not at all secure or robust. We've also had concerns with all sorts of things like debanking, like censorship about what people put on social media posts, an array of things like we saw with so-called vaccine passports. You can't go here, you can go there, only if you show me your papers. And the British public's enormously concerned with this. We don't need a digital ID. We've got passports. We've got all the ID we require. And this is just an attempt to get a surveillance biomedical state. And I think that, you know, the public's very opposed to it.
We almost have digital ID already. If you look at my phone and you start going through it, I mean, I'm one of these technophobes, actually, who doesn't have a credit card on my phone. Everybody else I know has a credit card on on their phone.
So what? What's that got to do with it?
Because you have your driving licence, you have your credit card.
By choice,
you've got it all. I know, but I just think most of us have everything. I've always wondered why there's such a fuss. And actually, we have a serious black economy, and the reason we can have a black economy where we have lots and lots of illegal people working for free is because there is no ID.
And you're trying to tell me that you think that there's no black economy in countries that have got digital ID?
There's certainly less in Europe. Yeah, that's why people come over here, is because they know they can work.
You're telling me that people get on these not so small boats because they think to themselves, oh, I know, I don't have to have digital ID.
I can work, whereas it's really difficult doing it illegally in the rest of Europe.
I've heard it all now. Look, I might return to that actually, because I can feel Alan's chomping at the bit to come back in. I know many of you will have strong opinions on that one as well. I also want to talk to you about net migration as well. New figures out today. See you in a minute.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's some further heavy, thundery rain affecting parts of Eastern Europe as we go through the next few days, particularly Greece and Albania. But starting off further west, yes, some rain pushing into the far northwest of Spain, but actually ahead of that, tomorrow looks largely fine and dry. A few bits of rain across the southern parts of Italy, but as I mentioned, it's further east, Greece, Turkey, Albania, where we're going to see heavy rain building up. Some places could see 250 millimetres through this week, enough to cause some disruption.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. The showers moving through overnight, many places becoming clear by dawn, but some very strong winds, particularly in the north and the west. We do have a Met Office yellow warning in place across northern and western Scotland. From this area of low pressure, moving to the north of Scotland, but the isobars really squidging together. Very strong gusts coming in here, 50, 60, maybe 70 miles an hour, perhaps even 75 in exposed parts, could cause some disruption. Blowing in plenty of showers for northern Scotland and Northern Ireland. Showery rain for England and Wales at the moment, but that all clears through. Many places become dry and clear by dawn. Temperatures dropping to about 6-7 Celsius in most towns and cities, a little lower in the countryside, but generally not quite as mild as it was last night. It is going to be very windy though tonight, particularly as I mentioned across northern and western Scotland, where we have a Met Office yellow warning in place. The kind of gusts we're talking about likely to cause some travel disruption, perhaps also maybe some power interruptions as the showers move through, maybe a little bit of snow over the hills. Could be a wet start for parts of northwest England, north and west Wales, this zone of showery rain moving in as we head towards dawn, but further east and further south, many places start Friday with some blue skies and some sunshine, but it will cloud over across northeast England, the Midlands, with this showery zone working its way into South Wales too. Some heavy bursts possible, ending up across southwest England later. Lots of showers still packing into western Scotland and Northern Ireland. The wind's easing a touch, but still quite a blustery day and a colder feel for most, although we could still get up to a pretty mild 13 degrees across the southeast. Now, still a bit of uncertainty about Saturday, but we're looking at some wet weather and increasingly windy weather for parts of England and Wales. Maybe a little bit further north than this, and it may have a bit of snow mixed in over the hills, but be prepared for some heavy bursts of rain to move across England and Wales. For Scotland and Northern Ireland, it should be bright enough on Saturday with some sunny spells, but a few wintry showers in the far north.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 8 million followers across social media. Thank you for making us a part of your daily life.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Current road conditions include congestion on the M4 westbound from junctions 39 Groves to 43 Landarcy. The M180 westbound in North Lincolnshire has 2 lanes closed due to a collision, causing a 90-minute delay. Cheshire West and Chester report M6 southbound delays between junctions 19 and 18 after an accident with 2 lanes closed. The M1 northbound in Nottinghamshire between junctions 25 and 26 has 3 lanes closed, resulting in an hour's delay. And on the trains, disruptions affect Avanti West Coast. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Hello, everyone. We were just debating that guy. Remember that fella, the Oxford Union president that was almost celebrating when Charlie Kirk got killed? We were just talking about that, actually, and whether or not there should be any limits of free speech. Many of you have got in touch during the break, I've got to tell you, actually, about digital ID. Scarlett Maguire doesn't really seem to see what the big deal is and says, basically, we've all got all this stuff on our phone. Loads of you are getting in touch saying, Michelle, I don't have all this stuff on my phone at all. Lots of you are getting in touch saying you absolutely do not want digital ID. You don't trust this government as well to have digital ID. You wanted to come back in, Alan Miller.
Yeah, the difference about having some things on your phone and making choices with individual businesses is it's not a state that is overseeing all aspects of your identity. And we've seen already, haven't we? We've seen a situation where we had everything from the Rapid Response Unit and the Counter-Disinformation Unit censoring, shadow banning, pursuing citizens, journalists, medical people through the crazed period of lockdowns. We were also told that all sorts of pandemic responses may include things like that. We've seen a situation where the government, we talked about debanking, but in a range of areas, the government wants to go into our bank accounts now, the Department of Work and Pensions, take money out. They say it's for fraud. Across the board, we've seen concerns around punitive measures if you don't behave in a certain way. It's not just about what you are and are not allowed to say, or two-tier policing or justice, but we've also seen that you get fines if you don't recycle your refuse quite well, or we've seen low-traffic neighbourhoods, all sorts of people getting fined even though they haven't been agreed and there's not been proper consultations. And lo and behold, if you have this digital ID, show me your papers, please, on the one hand, you can always be stopped and have it demanded, but also this becomes a measure that's fast approaching a situation where the technocrats can start punishing you for behaviour. That's why at the Bank of International Settlements, the CEO said, we love central bank digital currency. We love that because we can monitor every single transaction you make.
Has he put you off it yet?
No.
All right.
I mean, the rest of Europe have ID cards. It's fine. They're not police states. I just don't understand.
So then why
the
don't you
problem.
make it optional then? If you're in your camp and you're into your digital ID, have a digital ID card, and if you're in his camp, absolutely not.
Absolutely right. And then the black economy goes on because we don't all have digital ID. It's fine.
I do not, for a nanosecond, believe that this is about black economies and illegal migration. That does not wash with me, I'm afraid. Another thing that's got people talking about the budget small print is all of this electric vehicle charging, the paper mile there. Your thoughts?
Oh, well, it's funny, wasn't it? Because just a minute ago, if you said there was going to be paper mile, people were accusing you of being a conspiracist. And here we have it, paper mile. And you know, what we see is that what was promised as this kind of great moment of electric, like you had free parking in some places, you didn't have to pay a congestion charge in London, is really just a next stage of an assault on driving and on driving people. It's another way of getting taxes from people. Obviously, there things have to be done. You have to maintain roads, right? But we've got provisions for that. And you've got a situation where both locally and nationally, some people have been very opposed to the idea of driving, right? We've got policies in local government up and down the country where they've been shutting roads off, putting CCTV cameras in, and making congestion happen in arteries. And now we see a situation where, oh yeah, lo and behold, we have got paper mile coming in, and guess what? Hey, it could be linked to your digital ID, and we can just survey you all doing it that way too. And if you're impacting on your carbon footprint too much, maybe we'll switch it off.
OK, so the reason it's been brought in is because at the moment, if you drive a petrol or a diesel car, you have a fuel surcharge. So basically, you're taxed on the fuel, and that goes towards potholes. That's what. And if you're in a petrol car or an electric car, you need proper roads. You need roads without potholes. And so it's a way of charging people for electric cars for how much they use the road, so that they can pay towards it. It's really simple.
So you've got no problem with that. I know that many of you have got a problem with that. So a lot of you feel that actually you've been pushed towards buying electric vehicles. You saying, and I remember when you was getting in touch with me yesterday as well about this, saying, but electricity, of course, it's not free. Many of you are paying eye-watering bills as well to charge these things up in the first place. And there's lots of questions about how this would work if you go travelling around, I don't know, a different country. Do you still have to pay this tax here. I don't know, you drive around France all summer long or whatever it is that you do in your spare time. Also, as well, what about how you're going to track this stuff? Because you don't have MOTs or anything, do you, for the first few years in new cars? So lots of question marks coming up when it comes to that. I can't get over, by the way, that you keep trying to convince me that these digital IDs are for the black economy. I just do not believe that. I can't believe people are still trying to peddle that.
What you should know in New South Wales as well, where they have it for driving licences, they've got a really burgeoning black economy in fake digital ID. So once you've got something digitally, you have all sorts of hackers and people doing it. So it's a myth, and that's why they dropped it when it was ridiculed about the immigration.
Well, I mean, there is a real problem about the black economy here. There's a real problem in restaurants. There's a real problem in construction, and you know, how do we deal with it? But
check people's national insurance number then.
Well, they don't. That's the problem. I mean, but you can get
just
fake anything.
To check someone's national insurance number, that is not, again, a reason for me to enforce mandatory digital ID right across the nation. Right. Doesn't wash with me. You're not convincing me.
No, well, I'm not.
I'm open-minded, I am, but you're not convincing me.
Well, I don't. I think you're pretty unopen-minded.
That's not very nice.
I don't think I've never noticed that.
Good job I've got a thick northern skin and I'm not easily offended, isn't it? Look, coming up after the break, I want to talk to you about net migration. Many people absolutely celebrating because it's sharply fallen. Well, yes, it has, but that's because of the eye-watering number of British people that are packing their bags and skedaddling. I'll see you in a minute. I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Dewbs & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, everybody. Michelle Dewberry with you till 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, Alan Miller and Scarlett Maguire till 7. Now, there was lots. Fred has got in touch as well. But, you know, we talk a lot about pensions, actually. You will have seen this. You've got salary sacrifice, of course, caps. Lots of you have been getting in touch as well, saying, what about public sector pensions? Fred makes the point as well. What about Keir Starmer's pension? Do you remember some rules perhaps may have been tweaked there? Interesting point you raised, Fred. Net migration in the UK has dropped sharply. Get this, it fell to 204,000 in the year to June 2025. That is down from 649,000 the previous year, so about a 70% decrease, if you would like. Now, that cued lots of celebratory tweets, if you like, from the Labour Party and various MPs from them, basically saying, like, yeah, look at this, the numbers are falling and they are falling sharply. Well, I think we've got to actually look at this and have a proper conversation about this because, yes, those figures are accurate. Yes, net migration has fallen sharply, but let me just show you some other figures, ladies and gents. Your gross migration into this country, so the amount of people that have come in, there's almost 900,000 people that have come in, 898 to be precise. You've got 693,000 have emigrated, of which 252,000 are British nationals. When you offset the number of British nationals that came in as well, that gives you a gross figure of 109,000 Brits that have left the country. I mean, I don't actually think this is quite the win that many in the Labour Party are suggesting it is. Do you, Alan?
No, I think we've got an enormous problem. I mean, 200,000 people, by the way, is a small, is a medium-sized town, exactly.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. The showers moving through overnight, many places becoming clear by dawn, but some very strong winds, particularly in the north and the west. We do have a Met Office yellow warning in place across northern and western Scotland. From this area of low pressure, moving to the north of Scotland, but the isobars really squidging together. Very strong gusts coming in here, 50, 60, maybe 70 miles an hour, perhaps even 75 in exposed parts. Could cause some disruption. Blowing in plenty of showers for northern Scotland and Northern Ireland. Showery rain for England and Wales at the moment, but that all clears through. Many places become dry and clear by dawn. Temperatures dropping to about 6-7 Celsius in most towns and cities, a little lower.
Sorry about that, ladies and gents. I was bracing myself for Alan Miller's response. Alan Miller, go on. 200,000
people is a town in Britain. I mean, you mentioned Aberdeen, it could be Rochdale. We've got a situation where the numbers are astronomically high, but there's also the case that many people with money and people with careers and businesses are leaving Britain. They're leaving Britain for places like Dubai, for places like Portugal, where they have far more preferential tax situation and people are welcoming businesses there. So we've got that issue. We've also got the issue that a very particular composition of people coming into the country, and we now know that asylum hotels that we were promised are going to be closed down, although obviously that then begs the question of them going into HMOs in local areas, are going to be shut down. But we've got 36,000, gone up by 13%, and we've also got 53,000 people that we don't even know where they are or what they're doing right now. So we've got a situation that's very serious. Over the last 15 years, we've seen an enormous amount of people come in. We've got an issue with not having upheld the ideas of integration and values, which has created the problem that we're facing in this discussion around so-called multiculturalism, where many in Britain have shut down the idea of our great history and culture and Enlightenment values. And so we've got a mixture of terrible things where you've got a lack of investment and economic prospects, a kind of contempt for our own values, which then reinforces a bit of a ghetto mentality in some areas. And at the same time, an impact on resources up and down the country for infrastructure by people that are coming in. And also some of the people who are not coming in now are people that are obviously bringing in more investment as a consequence of the landscape, and some people who are studying. There's less of them.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is there's a 70% drop in arrivals of people from outside the EU. I mean, when I say outside the EU, I include Norway and places in Switzerland and places like that. And that's students, and we really need these bright students to come over because we also need their money, and people on visas. But that's what the immigration was about, was trying to stop people from coming over. So the good thing is that we're going to have to train up, which we should have been doing for years, train up more British people to do the jobs. But actually, I mean, it is a terrible shame. But I thought that's what everybody wanted. Whenever the figures come out, they go, but this is awful, there are all these people coming in. It's dropped by 70%.
Right. Just to be clear, the people that voted Brexit for migration reasons, they wanted control of migration in this country. They wanted to stop having their wages undercut and all the rest of it. That was a primary reason if it was motivated by migration. Having 900,000 people come in to this country is not what people voted for in any way, shape or form. It's completely unsustainable.
Michelle, I didn't say that. What I said is it's dropped by 70%, and there is a problem about that we are losing a lot of international students, which our universities will lose, and there are a lot of people who are choosing not to come here because of the vising. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about 900,000. I'm talking about it's a massive drop. And I thought that you'd both be really pleased about it.
I'm not actually pleased about 900,000 coming into this country. We are having massive demographic change in this country. No one voted for it. No one's got the courage to talk about it. And I think it's appalling. I also think it's appalling, actually, that you've got 13% increase in 3 months of so-called asylum seekers in hotels. I thought the Labour Party was reducing this.
Yeah, and the way to reduce it is to process them, and it's taken time. And the problem is, as we know, at the moment we're having more people coming over on the small boats, and Shabana Mahmood is doing her best to try and get rid of the pull factor for why people. I mean, you know, why do people want to come over? Why they spend?
Let me stroke my chin for a nanosecond and think about that, shall I? 2 minutes ago, we were just talking about things like the two-child benefit cap, completely scrapped. People can come into this country, get an electric bike from God only knows where they get these electric bikes from because they cost a small fortune, and they're off on their way delivering food and doing all the rest of it in a nanosecond.
No, so it doesn't. You can't have it every way. Most of the people who come over on the small boats are young men, right? So this isn't people who have children, right? And they spend.
Young men do actually go on to have children.
They go on to have children once they've got jobs and things. And
come on,
you live in this thing that.
You can't tell me that these economic migrants that are coming into this country, 53,000 of them, by the way, have absconded. Now, if you're a genuine,
what
they would abscond is beyond me.
I mean, so really? They are economic migrants. Where are they? They're in construction. They're in the restaurants. They're in the black economy. They're living illegally. There's no question about that.
Clanwell, that's where I'm living. I can tell you that. Anyway, that's all I've got time for. Thanks, panel. Thanks, you. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the nation. Because the truth matters, and so do you.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Restrictions are on the M80 northbound junction 5